An accidental death and a bag of money with an unknown origin. Human greed is about to be pushed to the limit. What looks like total chaos is in fact an invisible hunt. Today let's dive into the black crime thriller that turns greed into a suspenseful maze. Greedy People. The story begins with Will and his family just moving into a small town. When Will wakes up, he notices his eyes are bloodshot, probably from burst capillaries. It's usually nothing serious, but unfortunately today is Will's first day reporting to the police station. Will feels uneasy, but he's about to be late, so he doesn't think twice and rushes out the door. At the station, Chief Murphy assigns him a partner to help Will get up to speed. As for Will, Terry's first impression of his new partner is pretty terrible. Seeing Will's red eyes, Terry rudely asks if it's contagious. No matter how unwilling he is, it's the chief's call, so Terry has no choice but to go along with it. On his first day, Will expects Terry to teach him some job basics. Instead, Terry just drives him around town and gives him 3 pieces of advice. First, don't kill anyone unless you absolutely have to. Second, respect Chief Murphy. Third, find a hobby you can do while on duty. Then Terry pulls out a Chinese book and starts showing off what he's learned.
没错，我的中文前他妈的有力。
It sounds pretty awkward, but that one Chinese sentence is how he landed a Chinese girlfriend.
快点进来，你这个笨蛋！
我告诉你，我来了。
Seeing his girlfriend getting impatient, Terry tells Will to wait in the car. Will isn't thrilled about it, but as the new guy, he has no choice but to comply. Will waits in the car for 2 hours, gets bored out of his mind, and eventually falls asleep. He's finally woken up by the police radio. Someone has called in and dispatch tells them to respond immediately. The caller doesn't specify the situation, only gives the code, 1115. Will has no idea what it means. He tries calling Terry on the radio, but gets no response. He lays on the horn, but there's still no movement inside, so he reluctantly goes up and knocks. Instead of Terry, the door is opened by the Chinese girlfriend's husband, putting Will in an extremely awkward spot. Not wanting to delay the call, Will stops waiting for Terry and drives to the scene himself. Based on his own assumption, Will thinks the code means a home invasion. So without hesitation, he draws his gun and cautiously enters the house. Inside, the homeowner Nina is wearing headphones and chopping vegetables, completely unaware of what's happening. As Will reaches the second floor, Nina bends down to pick something up and suddenly stands back up. Will fires a shot on instinct. Luckily it misses, and Nina isn't hurt. Will immediately apologizes, but breaking into her house and firing a gun completely sets Nina off. She charges at him, beating him with fists and kicks, and knowing he's at fault, Will doesn't fight back, but Nina only gets more aggressive, even trying to kill him. Faced with arms as thick as tree trunks, Will has no chance to resist. Before long, he passes out from suffocation, and they both collapse, smashing through a table. Will survives, but Nina's head is pierced by a piece of wood, killing her instantly. Will is completely stunned. He came to respond to a call and ends up a killer. When Terry finally arrives, he sees Will sitting on the stairs, frozen and helpless. Realizing something is seriously wrong, Terry rushes upstairs. He can't believe that in just a short time away, Will managed to cause such a disaster. Code 1115 actually means an illegally parked vehicle with unusual movement. But the newly arrived Will mistook it for a home invasion. Even worse, the woman who died is the wife of the town's richest man. Now they're really in trouble. On his very first day on the job, Will is facing termination and possibly prison time. Terry is at a loss as well, and at first he's ready to report everything to his superiors. But then it hits him. When the call came in, he was out on a date with his mistress. If Will gets punished, Terry will get dragged down too, and he might lose his job as well. After all, it was Terry who left his post without permission, sending a clueless rookie out alone. So what now? Frustrated, Terry kicks a bamboo basket only to discover it's hiding over $1 million inside. Seeing stacks of cash scattered across the floor, Terry instantly changes his mind. He's a gambler, and if he loses his job, he'll have nothing. So he comes up with a plan. Terry decides to hide the truth and stage the scene as a home invasion. That way they can clear themselves and walk away with the money. Besides, they're cops. How the case gets investigated is basically up to them. As long as they don't mess up, once everything blows over, they'll each pocket $500,000. But the honest Will doesn't agree. He thinks reporting the truth is the right thing to do. So Terry tells him to think about his wife and their unborn child. Under Terry's pressure and temptation, Will finally agrees to the plan. They quickly stage the scene and load the money into the trunk. Just as they're about to leave, Will notices the bicycle by the door is gone. Will panics either someone was hiding inside and slipped away or someone stole the bike. Either way, they risk being exposed, so they don't dare stay any longer. To create an alibi, they head into town and pull over a local for minor speeding. The driver even knows Terry, but no matter what he says, Terry insists on writing a ticket. Terry does this to stamp the time on the ticket and make the driver his witness. That gives them a perfect alibi. Meanwhile, the wealthy husband returns home and finds his wife lying lifeless on the floor. He shows no shock and no grief at all. Instead, he calmly puts something into the fridge, as if he knew this would happen. He then calls the police, and Terry and Will head to the scene as planned. In front of the cops, the wealthy man drops his cold demeanor and breaks down, demanding they find the killer. Seeing this, Terry and Will quickly steer the narrative toward a home invasion. On top of that, the wealthy man offers a crucial detail. He says a massage therapist comes every day at noon to massage his wife, and he suspects that person is the killer. Hearing this, Terry and Will are stunned. They never saw any massage therapist at all. Even stranger, the wealthy man claims nothing was stolen, saying nothing about the $1 million. Terry and Will immediately sense something's off, despite acting distraught in front of them. His expression completely changes the moment he sits down for his statement. So Will takes the opportunity to tell Chief Murphy that Nina was likely killed by her husband. Without solid evidence, the chief won't jump to conclusions, though his gaze toward the wealthy man turns probing. That night, the two drive to an abandoned shipping container and stash the cash inside. They agree not to touch the money until everything is completely over. Until then, it has to stay secret. No third person can know, not even those closest to them. Will agrees verbally, but once home, he can't help telling his wife, Paige, the truth. However, Will lies. He tells her that Terry killed Nina, and that he was forced to become an accomplice, hiding $1 million in a shipping container. Paige is deeply worried after hearing this, tossing and turning in bed, unable to fall asleep. But the one she's worried about isn't her husband, it's Terry, whom she's labeled as a dangerous person. Meanwhile, while the chief is out drinking, the driver who got the ticket comes to see him, complaining non-stop about Terry. She says she was only speeding by 1%, something that would never get a ticket on a normal day. So she asks the chief to help cancel it. After all, she has 3 kids to support. The chief agrees without hesitation, but the time on the ticket seems odd, because 3:25 p.m. is right around the time Nina died. The next day, Will and Terry meet again. Terry asks if Will told his wife anything, and Will seriously says he kept his mouth shut. Seeing how serious he looks, Terry doesn't press further, and they drive straight to the massage therapist's home. Before going inside, Will spots the same bicycle from that day. When questioned by the police, the massage therapist is extremely nervous, gulping down water as he sits there. He then claims he left at noon that day. He says he didn't ride that bicycle, and insists he doesn't even know how to ride one. But in reality, on the day of the incident, the therapist was upstairs working out with headphones on. When Will and Terry were staging the scene and making noise, he glanced down the stairs. That's when he saw 2 cops smashing things, and Nina lying in a pool of blood. Terrified, the massage therapist quietly slipped out through a window to avoid trouble. So when questioned, he doesn't dare tell the truth, afraid for his life. He also mentions that he sometimes provided Nina with special services. The implication is that Nina's marriage was bad, shifting suspicion toward her husband. After hearing this, the two immediately turn their attention to investigating the wealthy man. After leaving the house, Will remembers his wife's advice and invites Terry over for dinner that night. As for the wealthy man mentioned by the therapist, he isn't exactly innocent either. He's been in the seafood business for years, but it's left him with heavy debts. At the same time, he's been having a secret affair with his secretary for 6 months. He also knows his wife has taken out large life insurance policies. So in order to pay off his debts and be openly with his secretary, he scrapes together $1 million and hires a hitman to kill his wife. Now that she's dead and the money is gone, the wealthy man assumes the job is done. But unexpectedly, the hitman calls him, demanding that he meet tonight. The wealthy man is confused. Wasn't the job already done? Why does he still need to meet? What he never imagines is that the hitman never even made a move. On the day of the incident, the hitman arrives fully prepared, ready to carry out the job. Instead, he finds Nina already dead, and the agreed $1 million gone. He assumes the wealthy man hired another hitman and stole his job, something he won't tolerate. So he confronts the wealthy man, demanding an explanation. He showed up as agreed. Instead, he got nothing and no money, leaving the hitman furious and humiliated. After listening, the wealthy man is completely baffled. If the hitman didn't do it, then who did? The hitman doesn't care who actually killed her. He followed the agreed procedure. So the wealthy man must pay the $1 million or the hitman will kill him. The wealthy man feels wronged. He did nothing. Yet now there's suddenly a hitman threatening him. Afterward, he and his secretary think it over and conclude the wife was likely killed by the massage therapist. And the $1 million from the basket was probably taken by him too. They have to get that money back. Meanwhile, Terry comes over to Will's place at their invitation, something Will's wife specifically asked for. She wants to use this chance to test him, to see whether Terry can actually be trusted. Terry isn't stupid either. He wants to see if Will really kept their agreement. When Paige mentions that there are always bad apples in the department who take advantage and skim money, Terry immediately realizes Will must have told her everything, but he doesn't call it out. Instead, he jokingly talks about things from his younger days, stories that are chilling beneath the humor. Don't mess with me, or no one's going to have a good time. Throughout all this, Will doesn't say a single word. Since he told his wife that Terry killed Nina, he can't clear up the misunderstanding between them. The dinner ends in an eerie, uncomfortable atmosphere. The couple puts on a warm smile and walks Terry to the door. Back inside, Paige goes to feed their dog, but no matter how much she calls, it doesn't come. Sensing something's wrong, they rush outside and find the dog has been run over by Terry. Although Terry claims it was an accident, Paige knows this was a warning. Late at night, neither of them can sleep, so Paige takes the chance to ask Will for the container's passcode. She's afraid something might happen to Will, and wants security for the baby she's carrying. Will can't refuse that reasoning, so he gives her the code. The next day, Will and Terry meet at the station. Terry assumes killing the dog scared Will's wife enough, so he stops worrying about whether Will talked. He even offers a fake apology for what happened the night before. They're all in the same boat now, so Will doesn't push back and lets it slide. What he doesn't know is that Paige secretly took the $1 million from the container. She even sneaks to a nearby mall and tears down a note from the wall. On it is a phone number, the hitman's contact. That's right, she wants Terry gone for good so no one can threaten her life anymore. After agreeing on the price, the hitman tells Paige he'll act tonight, and she goes home to wait. Meanwhile, the chief calls Terry and Will into his office. After several days of investigation, police discover Nina's husband owes a lot of money. On top of that, Nina had a large life insurance policy, giving him a clear motive. At the chief's request, the two drive out to a couple's motel on the outskirts of town. After talking to the manager, they learn the wealthy man and his secretary come here often. With suspicion piling up, the two feel like this is a golden opportunity. At the same time, the chief gets a call from forensics. There's no sign of an intruder at the house. Instead, the place is full of Terry and Will's DNA, suggesting they were inside for a long time. Just as they're heading back, Will suddenly sees the massage therapist riding away on a bike. It's the same bike from the villa, meaning the therapist was there at the time. He must have seen everything and slipped away quietly afterward. Without sleeping, Will rushes to the therapist's place in the middle of the night and sees him packing to flee. A car pulls up. The wealthy man steps out and demands to know where the money is hidden. When the therapist says he doesn't know, the wealthy man loses patience and pulls a gun. The therapist's mother shoots and kills the wealthy man to protect her son. Will watches in shock. Then the secretary screams, jumps out of the car and shoots both the therapist and his mother, firing extra shots. She collapses beside the wealthy man in tears. Hard to deny that was real love. The sheer absurdity of it all makes Will laugh. There's even a hint of grim satisfaction. He can't wait to share the good news with Terry, completely unaware that someone is still sitting in the car behind him. Meanwhile, Terry is relaxing at home with a beer when a hitman suddenly grabs him by the throat. But Terry's been a cop for years. He doesn't go down easy, and the two start brawling inside the house. Still, out of shape and no match for a professional, Terry is quickly thrown out the window. The hitman pulls a knife to finish him off, but Terry blocks it with his thigh. The knife even gets knocked away, forcing the hitman to choke Terry with his bare hands. Just as Terry is about to suffocate, an arrow suddenly flies in and strikes the hitman. Standing behind him is Terry's Chinese girlfriend. They had plans to meet that night, and she ends up saving his life. While the hitman is stunned, Terry quickly wraps a chain around his leg and kicks hard. The hitman sinks straight into the water with an anchor attached, and Terry finally breathes a sigh of relief. When Will finds Terry ready to share the good news, he instead sees him badly injured, sitting on the steps. Terry knows he hasn't crossed anyone. Being targeted by a hitman must have something to do with Will.
Will has no idea what he's talking about.
The wealthy man and the therapist are dead, and they'll soon split the money. Terry doesn't believe a word. He forces Will to go to the container to see if the money is still there. Will isn't worried at all. He never touched the money. But when he confidently opens the container, he's stunned. The $1 million is gone. Coming to his senses, Will swears he knows nothing, even swearing on his unborn child. Terry seems unsurprised. He's certain Will's wife took the money. He orders Will to call his wife and put it on speaker. When the call connects, Will immediately asks where the money went. To his shock, Paige openly admits she took it. She says she believes Terry killed the rich man's wife and can't be trusted. Terry never imagined that someone he called a friend would betray him like this. Ignoring Will's weak excuses, an enraged Terry shoots him dead. On the other end, Paige hears the gunshot and realizes her husband is dead. She doesn't even mourn. She grabs the money and prepares to run. Before leaving, she calls the chief and pins all the blame on Terry. The husband and wife are exactly alike. With no way out, Terry now wants only one thing: to kill Will's wife himself. Wounded and exhausted, he tracks Paige down at the harbor. Because of his leg injury, Paige easily knocks him to the ground. The harbor isn't big, and Paige is pregnant. She can't get far. Before long, Terry catches up to her. Just in time, the chief arrives and kills the unhinged Terry with a single shot, ending his greedy life. The next day, Paige wakes from a coma. The doctors have already performed a C-section. Seeing she's stable, the chief asks her to talk. After all, many people have died, and Paige clearly knows more than she's saying. Having lost her husband and unwilling to lose the money, Paige lies and claims she knows nothing. Given she just gave birth, the chief lets it go and plans to follow up later. But the moment he leaves, Paige plans to escape with the cash. She's too late. The hitman hired by the wealthy man has been waiting for this moment. Paige schemed for that $1 million, calculating every move, even sacrificing her husband. In the end, the money costs her life as well. The hitman enters an elevator with his payment, and soon another woman steps in. It's the wealthy man's mistress, the secretary. When the elevator doors open, the chief sees 2 bodies and scattered cash inside. In the final moments, the chief chooses to adopt the child who lost everything. Greedy people doesn't paint human nature as black and white. It quietly reminds us that people make mistakes, and people are selfish. What truly matters is whether, after everything falls apart, you're still willing to leave something for others. If it were you, would you choose the money or take responsibility? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.